Japan, the island nation of the Far East. Around the world, Japan stands out for its educational zeal. Commodore Matthew Perry, who forced the shogun to open up Japan to trade, was even surprised at the high standards of education in Japan. Education is found everywhere. I have no doubt that Japan will become the most important nation in the Far East. In 2015, 4 institutions of educational heritage that set the historical foundation for modern Japanese education received Japan Heritage designation. Shizutani School in Bizen City, Okayama Prefecture, opened in the beginning of the Edo period, when the warring states were brought under unified rule. The school was the first to open the doors of education to common people. Kangien in Hita City, Oita Prefecture, was a private educational institution in the Edo period. Kangien practiced education based on merit, regardless of family status or social position. Kodokan in Mito City, Ibaraki Prefecture. In the late Edo period, Kodokan taught arts and sciences, as well as military arts, with the goal of nurturing a nationalist mindset among its students. And last is the oldest school in Japan. It is Ashikaga Gakko in Ashikaga City, Tochigi Prefecture. The school was known even in faraway Europe. In the middle of the 16th century, Francis Xavier, a Catholic missionary and co-founder of the Society of Jesus, reported that the largest school in Japan was located in the Kanto region. According to his report, the school had well over 3,500 students. The school gained a reputation for its extensive collection of books. Confucianism and the study of divination were among the teachings that were brought over from China and studied at Ashikaga Gakko. Many of the books in its library were valuable texts from China. Fast forward several hundred years, and the learning offered by Ashikaga Gakko is still captivating today. Let's take a look around Ashikaga Gakko, the oldest school in Japan and designated Japan Heritage Site. The city of Ashikaga is connected to Tokyo by express trains from Asakusa in Tokyo. This is the birthplace of the Ashikaga clan, who established the Muromachi shogunate. The oldest school in Japan, Ashikaga Gakko, was built at the foot of a mountain range that fans northward. The school has many buildings featuring traditional Japanese architecture. In 1990, the school buildings were faithfully restored to their appearance in the Middle Edo period, including the building's size and layout, based on a study of carefully preserved diagrams. At the entrance of the school is the new Tokumon Gate. Toku means virtue, and the gate represents the entrance to a virtuous world. There is another gate after the new Tokumon. The sign above it simply reads Gakko, or school. Schools do not concern themselves with governing or religious beliefs, but are places dedicated only to elevating knowledge and virtue. Ashikaga Gakko was the first institution in Japan to call itself a Gakko, or school. There are competing theories about when the school was established. The oldest theory says that the school was founded in the Heian period in the 9th century by the government official Ono no Takamura. This theory was officially recognized in the Edo period, and a statue of a seated Ono no Takamura can be found on the school grounds. Other theories state that Ashikaga was the legacy of educational institutions of the Nara and Heian periods called Kokugaku, or that it was founded by Ashikaga Yoshikane, an ancestor of the first Ashikaga shogun. This document references the school's history. It is an ancient Chinese divination text called Shue Kiden and was transcribed in 1372 and donated in 1477. There are also books that were used in the Warring States period before 1600. The book is an annotated text of military strategy, including the military tactics of Sun Tzu. After going through the Gakkomon gate, you are on the main grounds of Ashikaga Gakko. To the right are school buildings. The building with the thatched, hipped roof is called Hojo, which refers to a Buddhist temple building. Hojo was built here in the middle of the Edo period. Already by this time, Ashikaga Gakko had a history going back more than 300 years. The large drawing room speaks to the great number of students welcomed here. Ashikaga Gakko's success is said to be the result of one person. Uesugi Norizane was a deputy of the shogun during the Muromachi shogunate. In 1439, he donated books that had been brought from China and a dormitory for students, and rebuilt the school, which had fallen into disrepair. Uesugi Norizane donated this classical Chinese text, the Raiki Seigi. When you open the book, there is a warning prohibiting the book from being taken outside of Ashikaga Gakko. The warning was handwritten over 500 years ago by Uesugi Norizane himself. After being restored by Uesugi Norizane, Ashikaga Gakko collected a great many books, often from donations. Some of these texts have not survived in China, but have been reprinted and reverse imported from Japan. To date, the number of old books in its library reaches 17,000 volumes. The most valuable books in the Ashikaga Gakko library are said to be classical Chinese texts brought over from China that have been designated national treasures. These texts were written during China's Southern Song dynasty, from the 12th to the 13th centuries. The precious books were made using woodblock printing. Before the modern era, they were required reading for aspiring scholars. Their philosophical spirit was highly influential in China, the Korean Peninsula, and Japan. Their themes, written by ancient Chinese philosophers, were the path of governance, etiquette, and customs, and divination. There is also a large collection of poetry dating back to before the Common Era. The modern Japanese system of era names takes its names from writings in this Chinese text. The modern Heisei and Showa eras use two kanji characters taken from a poem and a proverb. The kanji characters for the Meiji era signify the authority to govern returning to the emperor. If the sages face south and listen to politics, the world will calm down in a bright direction. This is also recorded in the national treasure Shueiki Chuso. From this vast library, what students studied with the most fervor was Confucianism. There is a shrine dedicated to Confucius, the founder of Confucianism, on the west side of the Hojo building. Confucius had a major influence on the formation of education and thought in Japan. Today in Japan, you can find the oldest seated statue of Confucius, created in the Muromachi period. The teachings of Confucius spread to the people of Japan through books that were kept at places like Ashikagagakko. The Japanese character of placing value on duty and giving special importance to etiquette and customs was cultivated by the early spread of education. November 23rd. The fall colors are deepening. At a ceremony called sekiten, meat, fish, vegetables, and sake are offered to Confucius at a shrine dedicated to him. The customs, implements, and offerings have not changed over several hundred years. This ritual, dedicated to Confucius, is considered befitting of the courtesy shown to an honored teacher. At the end of the ritual, ordinary people join in to recite the analects of Confucius. Ashikagagakko gave the person who served as its president or dean the title of Shoshu. On the north side of the Hojo building, Shoshu throughout the ages have used the shoin, or study, to welcome guests. In this room with a view of the garden, each fall the books in the library are aired and dried out in the shade. These important old texts are spread out on the grass tatami mats and inspected as each page is turned and allowed to air. This is how these old books, which built the foundation of learning in Japan, are carefully preserved. In the Meiji era, when Western civilization arrived on Japan's shores, Ashikagagakko lost its function as a place of learning. But its historical landmarks and precious library collection have survived, thanks to the efforts of the people of Ashikaga. This place remains a treasure house of knowledge. Ashikagagakko faces south, toward the shining sun. It points to the path we should take to a bright future.